The idea for walking the Lycian Way came from talking with fellow hikers on the Scottish National Trail. John, seen here in the middle, and I decided to meet up to walk the Lycian Way at a future date. After completing the Camino de Santiago in Spain the following year with my daughter Isla, all three of us planned our Turkish adventure for 2018. John flew to Turkey from his home in England, while Isla and I travelled from our home in Texas. Setting out on Friday, May 11th, we took the 12-hour flight from Houston to Istanbul before catching the red-eye south to Dalaman. Our journey finally ended after an hour-long road transfer along the Turkish coast to Ola Deniz. Waking up to a buffet Mediterranean breakfast, our plan was to rest and recover from the grueling 24-hour journey before meeting up later in the day with John. Ola Deniz has a superb beach and impressive tourist attractions, but we couldn't help noticing the many paragliders landing on the beachfront. A short walk along the strip brought us to Hanuman paragliding. Soon after some mild cajoling of her father, we were being whisked in a van up to the 2,000-metre or 6,500-foot summit of Babadag, or Father Mountain, there to jump off in tandem under a sliver of nylon canopy. The guys at Hanuman were the best, making our adrenaline-thumping flight a thoroughly enjoyable experience. As one of the world's top paragliding destinations, even as we relaxed at our evening meal, flyers were landing on the beachfront as the sun set on Ola Deniz. Our first stage of the Lycian Way, from Ovacik to Faralia, was scheduled as a 7-hour hike. The following morning, on Monday, May 14th, we took the local dolmus up the hill behind Ola Deniz to Ovacik at the start of the Lycian Way. I used Kate Clow's classic guide to plan our itinerary, which designates Ovacik as the official starting point, even although, arriving a few days earlier, John hiked the optional first stage from Fethiye. So this is the start of the Lycian Way. How are you feeling, Abigail?
Ready to start.
Ready to start. How are you, John? I'm good. All right, we've got to take the obligatory photograph. Yeah. Official start photographs taken, we were ready to set off on the first stage to Faralia. As eagerly anticipated, after a short climb, outstanding views opened up looking back down to Ola Deniz.
Oh God, Dad, you're making me nervous.
What? Thing on the side? Head up. A steep climb right here. The contouring climb beneath Babadag was steep and rocky in places, but we had not anticipated hiking in higher than average temperatures, now reaching into the low 30s Celsius, mid to upper 80s Fahrenheit. Oh, bend down. Still great views down, but it's pretty sustained walking. This is an easy part. Pretty rocky too. We were just passed by a guy in sandals and bathing shorts and a small plastic bag. So I think that he might have the key to walking the Lycian Way. Heading towards the top of the climb, the trail passes some new builds, populated at this time by a menagerie of robust creatures who inhabit the turquoise coast. No, they just try and test you at the beginning, test your resolve. There's quite some rock. At the junction of the track and the village road, we came across a welcome shady rest stop with views over the village to the impressive rock buttresses of Babadag. Freshly squeezed orange juice was a refreshing feature we were to find and enjoy along most of the Lycian Way. Easy walking along the road under the rock buttresses soon opened up to coastal views, and yet another pleasant roadside rest stop, which we made good use of again before forging down the trail to Kermi. Kermi in a little village on our way to, what's the name of the town?
Faralia.
Faralia.
3 kilometers downhill.
It's always good after this morning. Call to prayer. Right up on top you can see where Isla and I were yesterday on the paragliding. It's a nice walk so far. It's only got 3.5 hours to here, and we've only got a couple of kilometers to go, so nice easy walking on the first day. Faralia soon appears out of the pine forest, and a short walk down the road past the village mosque leads to the stunningly picturesque Butterfly Valley. Given its highly acclaimed reputation, we'd booked our first night at George House, a collection of well-furbished bungalows and eclectic decor. The swimming pool was a welcome hangout after a hot day on the dusty trail, but it was this shaded platform overlooking the valley that was the most compelling George House amenity as we relaxed and enjoyed the sun setting on the opening day of our Mediterranean journey. Day 2 from Faralia to Alinka was scheduled as another 7-hour hike. We had already decided to use the Aladir path circling above Kabak Beach as our route for the day. To be honest, it was a rough first night, awoken at 4 a.m. by the Ezan, or call to prayer, and my alarm at the stomach pains I was now experiencing were not tempered by the soothing morning view over Butterfly Valley. Tuesday the 15th. And we are in beautiful Faralia. Where are we going to today?
Alinkia.
Alinkia. It was a bit of a rough night last night, wasn't it?
Yes.
So we're just going to take it easy and see how far we get today. John led the way, which turned out to be the case on most days, and Isla was also in fine fettle. I let them walk ahead as I pondered my fate. But it was a pretty rough night last night. Woken up at 4:50 by the call to prayer, which was an interesting experience, but walking down, John and Isla ahead of me there, and a very pretty area. We're on the way to Alinkia, which will end with another steep pull-up, but another beautiful sunny Mediterranean day today. Hopefully the stomach will hold up. Had a bit of problem last night, but seem to be doing okay so far. The path up through the wooded hill was a pleasant walk, with good views back along the coast. This junction was our turn-off to take the Alader High route, circling above Kabak Beach. For me, this makeshift rest stop couldn't have been a more welcome sight after the sustained pull-up on the wooded mule track. Our friendly merchants knew exactly where their ice-cold drinks would be most appreciated. A short walk further up through the woods opened up to Alinka and the delightfully situated Kanchi Pension, where at dinner Isla made herself comfortable with the house Keddy. As we absorbed yet another breathtaking Mediterranean view, our considerate host Hamza kindly prepared a delicious herbal tea to help alleviate my stomach ailment. We continued our trek south on day 3, heading from Alinka to Gay before reaching our destination at Bell, scheduled to be another 7-hour day. Breakfasts were always fresh, healthy and colourful on our journey, with plenty of nutrients to get us going. We took a few photographs with our generous host Hamza and his crew before heading down the road to the sea cliffs. It was another exciting, narrow, rocky path to begin our walk, overlooking Kumsal Beach and a picture postcard perfect Mediterranean.
I thought the slab was going to be going the other way. Down.
Oh, down. Yeah.
So that would be a little bit more interesting. This is the famous slab.
Yeah. Take a picture. Yeah. What is your name, by the way?
Mitten. Your name?
Mitten.
Mitten.
John.
John, nice to meet you.
Mitten posed for a photograph on the dramatic stone slab, while views opened up a little further along to Wheatfield Terraces below Three Goats Hill.
We're past the tricky section, so smooth sailing from now on. Up to Gay.
At this concrete cistern, the route divides for those wishing to visit the Sidma ruins. According to Kate Clow, there used to be a harbour at Sanjakali Beach below. One final steep pull-up brought us out onto the road, a short distance from Gay, again with excellent views back along the coast. Approaching the village, I noticed a little boy had run up to hold Isla's hand.
Hello, Emmett. Thank you for walking with us. Thank you.
3-year-old Emmett turned out to be the proprietor's son at the cafe we stopped at for lunch.
What's my name is Emmett. So where are we? We're at Gay. We are right here. Yeah. Emmett is teaching our Turkish.
Oraya gitti deniz bak. Sonra deniz bak.
He was fascinated by the maps and cameras, and was certainly cute company. After a large lunch, washed down with our new favourite Turkish soda, and after an impromptu photo shoot with Emmett, we headed off down the track to Bell.
So, John, how would you rate the Lycian Way so far?
Exceeded my expectations, as they keep asking me when they rate accommodation on booking.com.
Yeah. I think when you look at this kind of view and this kind of path, it's just gorgeous.
The path again cut off the road to follow a more interesting hillside goat track.
Okay, Isla, after 3 days on the Lycian Way, what's your verdict?
It's been nice so far. It's been a challenge, but we're staying strong, getting through it. It's been beautiful views, so
Oh yeah,
and really nice places when we get there. Food's been good.
food is very fresh, Mediterranean cuisine, lots of fresh vegetables.
As the day wore on, with the heat becoming more intense and the antibiotics compromising my stamina, our pleasant stroll became more of a struggle.
But we're not far away from Bell, so we're going to keep soldiering on. But yeah, it's hot, dry, rocky, and let's see, trying to keep hydrated is the main thing. That's the way ahead.
After a sustained uphill section, we finally reached the Pink Mosque at Bell by mid-afternoon, and our accommodation at the charmingly situated Fatma Pension, perched on the opposite hill. Through the entrance gate, visitors are greeted by Chaba, the Lycian hiker, before approaching the compound. A pine-cone-fired tea stove was already on the go when we arrived. Although we were offered ayran to quench our thirst, the local drink of goat's milk and salt, we got acquainted with Dutch hikers Hans and Gerda over beer and soda. We had a delightful view of the surrounding countryside from our room, and downstairs at dinner we were joined once again by Mitten, and this time two Alaskan hikers, Ethan and Rob. Bell to Kumlova was scheduled to be a long 10.5-hour day via Bel Kagiz, Guvaragili, Patara Beach West and Latun. Our warm and friendly host Fatma bade us a fond farewell, especially to her favourite Isla, before we headed along the road up Koju Bajak Bagi Hill, with splendid views looking down the valley. John and Isla were up for what certainly turned out to be another eventful day. Walking down the path towards Govaragili, we were oblivious to the fact we'd soon be lost. We met Hans and Gertie and the Alaskan duo, who persuaded us to head down a track towards the beach. Floundering along an overgrown path, this was the first time on our hike that confusion reigned. Close to the beach, Isla suggested I consult the GPS. Getting us back on track, from this point on, Eugene Millet's excellent TrailSmart and Lycian Way GPS apps, published in conjunction with his Trekipedia, became an indispensable aspect of our route finding along the Lycian Way. We did not get out of our predicament unscathed, however, as I ended up with a Harry Potter-esque scar from running into a low-hanging tree branch. By the time we reached the road, we were happy to be heading towards Patara Beach, even although that meant bypassing the Pydney ruins. And from the road, we caught our first glimpse of the expansive tomato greenhouses in the valley. A short distance further on, we came to the turnoff for the Patara Green campsite, and down the hill, we soon encountered the famed rickety wooden bridge, to quote from Kate Clow's guidebook.
Okay, just walk, Isla. Oh, you go first, Isla, one at a time.
After pirouetting precariously across the bridge, it was time for rest, relaxation and lunch, except of course for Isla, irresistibly drawn to water, was determined to go exploring. Given the uninviting route description of what lay ahead, Isla decided she wanted to bus the next section to Kumlova. John, to his credit, gallantly agreed to accompany her as I embarked on the walk along the track behind the sand dunes.
So we're on part 2 of today's walk, section 2. Just been at the Pantara camping spot, spent probably a couple of hours there. Just getting something to drink and eat, having lunch, a late lunch. Isla went for a swim. As you can see, I'm on my own in this blasted heath, walking towards Latun and Kumlova. John and Isla are going to take the bus there. It's a little bit more of a direct route. It should take me a couple of hours, but the walking is flat. As you can see, it's an easy walk. I mean, I look like, I don't know, like a beekeeper, but the main thing is trying to keep the sun off. You know, I'm kind of ridiculed for having so much stuff on, but honestly, this is the way to keep the sun at bay.
Gathering thunderclouds threatened, but it was nevertheless an enjoyable ramble through the eucalyptus trees.
Check at the GPS to see where we're going. And yeah, fairly pleasant. There's some thunder clouds ahead over the mountains.
Half a mile up the road, I encountered the famed Patara greenhouses, extending for miles in all directions, with houses and the occasional mosque hidden in between.
أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله.
I seemed to be tailing this truck, which turned out to be a mobile ironmonger's, stopping to supply local residents. At Latun, the sacred centre of ancient Lycia, the temples to Leto, Artemis and Apollo can be seen from along the road, as well as the impressive theatre. In modern times, there's certainly no doubt what drives the regional economy. At this junction, I turned right to follow the route, except that John and Isla had secured accommodation in the opposite direction. I stopped at the impressive mosque before asking directions, then doubled back to reach the Latun Hotel on the outskirts of Kumlova. Even although the hotel was under construction and not scheduled to open until later the following year, the owner kindly prepared a delicious meal for us all to enjoy. We bought ice creams from the gas station next door and took in the extraordinary evening views across this agricultural valley. Our next day stage from Kumlova to Uzumlu through Kinnik and Xanthos was scheduled as a deceptively short, less than 6-hour hike. After bidding farewell to our genial host at Latune Hotel, we set off on the hour-long road walk to reach the market town of Kinnick. A short steep pull-up from Kinnick brought us to the Xanthos ruins, the one-time capital of the ancient Lycian Federation, and a site rich in Lycian lore, not least of all the infamous mass suicide in 42 BCE, when the population committed mass suicide rather than capitulate to Roman general Brutus and slavery. This Xanthos shame, as it became known, perpetrated by the Romans, is still talked about today as a defining act of Lycian history.
How are you doing today, Abigail?
Fine.
Okay, good. So here we are at the famous Colosseum. The theatre.
The Roman theatre, rebuilt after the 2nd century AD earthquake, is well preserved and provides a good vantage point over the river. We continued our road walk to Cavendish, stopping for lunch beside the road in this busy farming town. Not accustomed to eating very much during the day, the delicious local food was hard to resist. By this time on our journey, we were becoming familiar with the warmth and generosity of the local people we were meeting, as well as the many animals, domestic and otherwise, that Isla wanted to pet.
Oh, we've got 3 weeks left. I don't want you landing in hospital for a tetanus shot, Isla.
Isla's desire to rescue any local animals notwithstanding, the road out of Cavendish eventually climbs up to the aqueduct. From the trail, we enjoyed panoramic views west over the Kumlova and Patara Valley. It was at this point, in what was becoming dangerously hot weather, that navigation by GPS became invaluable in finding our way through thick shrubs obscuring the path.
That is pretty, isn't it?
We pushed on up the hill through a pink oleander grove, stopping briefly on the road before a steep climb up through the pine forest. After a long day, it was a relief to eventually walk down through olive groves into Azumlu, where, once sat down, we could barely summon enough energy to move uphill again to our accommodation. Reviving herbal tea came to the rescue at Villa La Pal Pension, served by our host Mitten. His comfortable house and laundry facilities were much appreciated, as well as the superb dinner spread prepared by Mitten's wife. After probably our most grueling day on the trail so far because of the heat, it was gratifying to relax and watch the sun set over the valley we traversed over the past 2 days. The stage from Azumlu to Galemis, Patara, was scheduled as a 7.5-hour hike, with the route contouring around the valley to Akbel. Before we left his pleasant accommodation, Mitten shared with us some fruit from his garden that looked like grapes, pointing out that Azumlu is named after them. Relatively recovered after yesterday's ordeal, we enjoyed a freewheeling walk down through the village.
Wonderful.
Why was it wonderful?
It's at a really nice place in Izumlu. There's a really nice man and his wife.
Mitten.
And you got to speak to his son on
Yes.
the phone.
Where was his son? Was it Bethia?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we even know the name of the town. John is named after what?
The Grape Town.
Although you're not certain that that was actually grapes that they were.
Well, what we were trying was kind of like a grape, but like a grape cross between a grape and a blackberry.
Yeah.
And we can pretty well see where we're going
Yeah,
if we're doing a bit of a loop to get round to it.
that's true, yeah.
Looking ahead, we could see Akbel in the distance as we rejoined the aqueduct path. The path is obliterated by new construction in places, but detours are generally well marked, with plenty of interesting company. At this sign, we try to focus on our route for the day and not let our minds skip ahead to what lay in store after Kalkan. A nice easy path took us down to the road on the valley floor before climbing up hairpin bends to Akbel. The tidy, well-supplied market had everything we needed for our lunch stop, prolonged, as usual, by Isla's tending to local waifs and strays. Leaving Akbel, we resumed our hillside contour along the aqueduct through olive groves. A short distance later, we arrived at the 2,000-year-old Roman Delacomer Aqueduct Bridge. A massive engineering marvel, with walls 12 metres high and 3 metres thick, the bridge is a colossal 230 metres in length. The sealed siphonic pipe has a 30-centimetre diameter hole. While some of the sections of the bridge have collapsed, it remains a remarkably intact, robust structure, possibly built during the reign of Nero or Vespasian. This southeasterly view across the bay is where the Patara Loop section of the Lycian Way both begins and ends. Looking back from the path after crossing the road, the impressive scale of the Delacomer Aqueduct can be fully appreciated. An easy dirt track heads inland, wending through forest and open scrubland, until intersecting with the road shortly before Patara. We'd booked ahead at the highly recommended Flower Pension, a family-run concern with an excellent restaurant and well-stocked bookshelves. When we arrived, the owners, the Kirka family, were setting up party decorations celebrating their nephew's first birthday. Our first-rate evening meal fortified us for our next day's tour of the Patara ruins and our hike onto Kalkan. Our walk from Glemis Patara to Kalkan was scheduled to take 8 hours, including the infamous sea cliff section we had been warned to be careful about tackling. We eagerly anticipated playing tourists at the start of the day, having read a history of the Patara ruins in this book from the Pension Library. After saying farewell to our friendly and attentive host, Bakir, a short walk along the road brought us to the first of the Patara ruins, the Spring Church and Cemetery, just past the entrance gate. The dominant symbol of this ancient city is the arch, built around 100 AD, according to the book, in honor of the highest-ranking administrator of the city. Ruins of basilicas and workshops are spread throughout the site, although the beautifully recently reconstructed Lycian League Assembly Hall provides a wonderful sense of architectural grandeur, as well as stepping back in time. The theatre, constructed in the pre-Roman Hellenistic age, is built strategically into the northern slope of a hill, this leeward aspect offering ingenious protection from the sea winds. The council chamber, this reconstruction only omitting the roof, provided the focal point of meetings for the 23 constituent Lycian League cities. To the right of the assembly building lies the main street, at a width of 12.6 metres, one of ancient Anatolia's widest and best preserved, lined with granite columns brought from Egypt. After our earlier visit to Xanthos, learning about its powerful twin Patara helped us appreciate being at the historical epicenter of this ancient region. Leaving Patara on a path across from the arch provides a convenient shortcut back up to the road. This dirt road climbed steadily through a forest, offering extensive views back down to the Patara ruins and the beach beyond. From a hairpin bend on the top of the ridge, a superb view of the onward terrain along the coast opens up. The path is well signposted along this section, allowing for a freewheeling stroll and yet more mindful musings.
Sunday, May 20th, the day after the royal wedding and the FA Cup final. The heat's been a real factor over the last several days, and so I'm glad for a little bit of cloud cover and a breeze. Looking forward to seeing what these cliffs are about. We hear a lot about them being quite exposed and exciting, so that'll be an adventure.
The high point at Yeli Burun again provides wonderful views along the turquoise coast and an easy path to follow, with the eastern outskirts of Kalkan now appearing in the distance. After a long slog up the road, we reached the signpost at Delakemer once again, signalling the end of the Patara Loop section of the Lycian Way. The path beyond Delakemer heads down through a pleasant meadow before climbing up above Furnaz Bay, a popular spot for Kalkan boating parties and a splendid swimming spot. But now, our moment of truth had arrived.
So Isla wants to get to Kalkan. So do I. We're ready for a drink. It's very windy too, as you can tell. This is the interesting part. Over the sea cliffs.
The sea cliff scramble in a strong wind certainly required our full attention to negotiate safely. Isla was a happy rock hopper after gaining some confidence, traversing this section with relative ease. We met up again with John, who led us along the steep, scrubby path, with the wind now blowing at our backs, pushing us towards Kalkan. The town came more distinctly into view a short distance along the hillside, with its characteristic rows of white terraced buildings. Above Calamar Bay, the path descends through more thick scrub to join the dirt road leading into Kalkan, a quintessentially Mediterranean tourist town, with buildings covered in gorgeous purple cascading bougainvillea. At the end of another long hot day on the Lycian Way, this frozen lemonade, handcrafted at the house, kitchen and bar, was a major hit. So much so, I indulged in a double. Given that our following day was a designated rest day, we booked in at the appropriately named Happy Hotel overlooking Calamar Bay. Returning to the house, kitchen and bar for yet another delicious evening meal, we managed to get in an extra few hundred feet of hill walking back up to the hotel to end our day. We had no specific plans for our rest day in Kalkan. A late breakfast and a walk into town to pick up a few supplies was all the exertion we had in mind, but the main road inevitably guided us downhill to the town centre, where the many restaurants cater to their overwhelmingly English clientele. Another short stroll down Heart Attack Hill brought us to the Kalkan harbour. Given the late morning hour, we presumed we'd missed most of the boat tours, who generally left the harbour at 10 a.m. Fortuitously, one captain with a cancellation offered to take us on a private day trip so as not to waste the fresh food already loaded on board. The sunset boat tour was an ideal way to spend our rest day, able to finally enjoy the clear azure water we'd been walking alongside on dusty trails this past week. Our speeding taxi ride back up the hill into town gave us plenty of time in hand to enjoy a leisurely evening meal at the Brothers Cafe and Restaurant, where we relished yet more fresh Mediterranean fine dining. Our first week on the Lycian Way was now behind us, but we eagerly anticipated the new experiences that lay ahead.